Sometimes we say stuff to ourselves at night to make us go to sleep easier. I think Fidarian Mathis had that moment in front of a lot of people at the Senior Bowl this week when he said, "We came up short, but me remind y'all, Alabama still runs the SEC." You know, it's the thing. He said a lot of stuff, but that's the takeaway. He said, "I got a lot of respect for those guys, and this that, and the other." But it's hard to ignore the last sentence. We still run the SEC. So let's kind of fact check this a little bit and talk about it because delusion comes in many forms. And for athletes, particularly college guys, it's hard to deal with sometimes getting your ass whipped and living in reality. And we talk about this is actually you can see Mathis and his Alabama counterparts a lot in DAWGSTRUCTION, which is right down below. Please make sure that you're getting this. You can get multiple copies. A lot of people have been doing that. DAWGSTRUCTION is an 80-page, 82-page hardcover, full color, glossy book, a commemorative book about Georgia's 2021 national championship season, which is not something that happened at Alabama this year. It did happen the year before, which is kind of my point here in that if we're going to deconstruct this, in Mathis's time at Alabama, they won two conference championships and one national championship. So, I mean, I don't think there's much. I mean, I've been pretty firm about this about Bama. They are one of the top three programs in the country. I think it's hard to argue they're not the top program, but we don't know if that's going to continue or not. We don't we never know these sorts of things. But in the last three seasons that Mathis played, they lost the wrong game twice in terminal fashion. In 2019 to LSU, that knocked them out of the national championship picture. And then in 2020, they went undefeated. Problem is, they lost the wrong game to Georgia. So it depends on what you mean by we run the SEC. If you mean that you've eaten multiple losses in the last couple of years, then the answer to that is yeah, that's right. I mean, you're the best. You've been the best, but it doesn't mean that you've run the SEC. I mean, come on, man. Like this is what you're gonna say after you got beat. Like it's been a month almost. And when you look at Alabama, I don't I think I think Georgia has a one fewer loss, maybe two, than Alabama in that time period. But in 2019, they lose to Joe Burrow and LSU. Really got outplayed completely in that game and made a comeback at the end. And then the loss to Auburn in the final game of the season. So that's two losses that we know they went undefeated this past year in 2020. And then in 2021, they have two losses to SEC teams again. I mean, so in the last 3 years, they lost to four different programs. Now, I know there have been times at Alabama when they really have run the league, and they didn't have that many losses. I mean, they didn't have that many losses for a stretch of years at times in conference play. I mean, four losses in conference play, particularly to different teams. I don't think Alabama's going anywhere. I'm not one of those guys. I have complete understanding. I get it. I mean, they are in everybody's way, but people are in their way now too. And to say, "Hey, we run the SEC," nah, man. I mean, you're just in it like everybody else. You're better than South Carolina and Tennessee and people like that, but you didn't just roll the ball out there and beat Georgia. The last time you played them, they whipped your ass. They beat you by double digits. And to be honest, I mean, this is about honesty here. Um, if that game had gone on a little longer, that could have gotten really ugly because Alabama was running out of steam. Now, Bama should win the national championship in 2022. But it doesn't mean that they will, that they should. I mean, every season we come into college football, and Alabama has proven over a decade, that they have what it takes to win the national championship, to win the league. But that's your favorite doesn't mean you will. I mean, we know that from the SEC championship. The thing that's so funny about this to me is that had Georgia won the conference and kind of dismissed Alabama from the national championship conversation in college football playoff, you would still be getting this. You would still be getting this notion that Bama, that they run the league. Hey, look, man, 2 of the last 3 years, you've not had the best win. You've not had the terminal win at the end of your season. It's been another SEC team that has. So to say that you run it, no, I don't know about that. You're one of the best programs, if not one of the best two, if not the best. But you don't run it. No, 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 no. If you ran it, Joe Burrow wouldn't have run your ass down in Tuscaloosa. If you ran it, you'd be losing to Auburn. If you ran it, I mean, if you ran it, you wouldn't have Georgia coming back on you in the fourth quarter. If you ran it, you wouldn't have Texas A&M Aggies running all over the field. Okay, so I don't know what to say about this stuff after a while. I mean, Georgia's had three total losses in the last 2 years, two of them to Alabama, one to the Gators. Alabama has had two losses total in the last 2 years, one of them to Georgia and the other one to Texas A&M. So obviously, are we saying Texas A&M is one of the top three? I'm not right now, but I'm also not sitting here acting like Georgia, quote, runs the SEC. This is what happens when you have guys who are still hurt about a loss. And I understand it. But this hubris that is, coming from Tuscaloosa is a consistent thing. It's happened over the years. It doesn't bother me. It's just funny to watch when, you got to just be like Nick and just say, hey, listen, man, they whipped our ass. That's it. And that's it. I mean, Nick Saban doesn't say this sort of stuff. Now, Nick's a coach. He's been through the wars, he's been through the fights. He knows the deal. But when younger players do this, it's hard not to be like, bro, you can't do that. Like last year, for instance. Now someone can correct me if I'm wrong. When Florida drop kicked Georgia in Jacksonville, you didn't hear the Georgia players a few weeks later talk about how the SEC East went through them. No, they just went out and proved it the next year. They just proved it by choking Florida out in Gainesville and getting their coach fired. I mean, don't it's just a very, very much a My Fair Lady moment. Don't talk about it. Show me. Don't talk of, you know what? I'm not going to get a copyright strike. Don't talk. Just do. Now, this young man, he's going on to the league. He'll be fine, and all this stuff. But it is always curious to see after the fact how guys deal with it. And I'm going to tell you right now, if that is the attitude in Tuscaloosa heading into 2022, they got bigger problems on their hands than they realize. Because thinking and saying something that is not necessarily true after you've been, humbled is not a good look. And I've always found, personally, that people that chirp the most are either not prepared, which we know is not the case at Alabama, or they're nervous. And I mean, maybe he's been getting a bunch of grief from the guys from Georgia. Maybe I don't know, but this hubris, this thinking that you're never going to lose and someone's always, you're always going to be better than somebody else. That's not how it works. You got to go do it. And I don't think Alabama's going to exactly be falling off a cliff, but I mean, this is some Dabo stuff right here, man. Like, this, kind of, we'll show, we're still, yeah, just move it along. Keep it moving, man. Keep it moving. If Alabama, if we still run the SEC, then you would run the SEC, but you don't, do you? Kid DAWGSTRUCTION is right down below. You can read all about the national championship game where Georgia beat Alabama if you missed that. It's right down below. Click the link. It's worth your time and money. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the website.